So let's go ahead and get rolling. So good afternoon and good morning to those of you out west. I want to thank you for joining us today. I welcome Eliu Perez to help us celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month and reflect upon how it enriches Ardurra, our staff, and the AEC industry in general. To provide a little bit of history, Eliu recently joined Ardurra as our South Florida and Caribbean client manager after long tenures with CDM and Black & Veatch. His recently published book, Unclipped Wings, The Story of an Unexpected Life, which I have right here. He sent me a great signed copy. So I've started reading it actually, and it's incredibly interesting and exciting. The book details the lessons he's learned from his humble beginnings as, and I quote, a little brown boy with a funny name, who was raised in an adobe house in Central America before immigrating to the U.S. as a teenager and finding a new home and family with a wonderful couple in Kansas City. He truly exemplifies what the American dream means for most, where humble beginnings present obstacles, but not barriers to success, and how anything is possible with hard work, focus, and a bit of kindness. When Eliu and I first started to speak about this, I explained that this topic is special to me. As many of you know, my wife is first-generation Cuban-American, and we raise our two beautiful children to treasure their Hispanic heritage. Further, she's also a high school Spanish teacher, which I divulge embarrassingly because I speak such horrible Spanish, but well enough at least to get around in Miami. Nonetheless, we do struggle with preserving their connection with their Hispanic heritage. So I'm personally excited and invigorated by what Eliu has to share today. And I'm going to be actually having my wife and children watch this recorded version tonight. So Eliu, let me start by thanking you for choosing to join the Ardurra family. I know starting in the middle of a pandemic can be hard, but I hope we've done all that we can to make you feel welcome. And thank you for sharing your incredible story and insights and the lessons you've learned with us today. For the audience, we will aim to keep the structured discussion to about 30 minutes so that we can open the lines for questions. So I encourage you to jot down any thoughts or questions and be prepared to join the conversation. Alternatively, you can also ask questions via the chat box, which is up. And we'll try to get through as many of them as we can within the hour. So if you're ready, we can go ahead and begin, Eliu. And I'm going to ask you a quick question that I didn't have on my list, but I think is probably a question a lot of folks have. So Hispanic Heritage Month runs from September 15th through October 15th, which is kind of an odd, if you're not aware of why, it's kind of an odd thing. Can you explain real quickly what the significance of running in that mid-month period is?
Sure. Thank you, Kevin, and thank you for the kind introduction. I have to believe that Hispanic Heritage Month was established around this time of year because, as you know, on Monday we celebrate what used to be Columbus Day. I don't know what it's called right now because anything is politically incorrect anymore. But I believe some people are calling it different names, and I believe that it coincides with the independence of most Latin American nations, which happened around the September-October time period, and it probably has to do because in Latin America, the holiday is called the Day of the Race. Racially speaking, okay, because people seem to believe that that's when the really Latin American race started, okay, because Spanish have been there for millennia, okay, the Spanish have been there forever, but we in Latin America are not Spanish. We speak Spanish, okay, but it's like an American who speaks English is not an Englishman, right? It's an American. So that's the subtle difference. And I do believe it has to do with those dates. Spain was weak when Napoleon had invaded Spain. And I believe that's the moment when all these republics became independent. And it happened around this period. So I have to believe that the day of the October 12th, is what really closes the month. From independence through the day of the race, if you would, and we can expand on that a little more. But I believe that's the reason.
Sounds good. All right, I'm going to kick right off, and I'm going to ask you, start with my first question. So, what is Hispanicity, and why is it important to celebrate the heritage?
Well, I thank you for that question. I, I, Hispanicity is basically a state of mind, a state of connection, of connectivity. Not very different than any other ethnicity, if you would. Hispanicity is just a common set of values, beliefs, and understandings of a group, the Latin Americans in particular, to attain, some recognition of who the Latin American, ethnic group is. It's a very diverse, racially diverse group. There's Latin America. There are 2 million Japanese, in Sao Paulo, in Brazil. There's, a million Japanese in Peru. I mean, there's people from all over the world that have made up what Latin America is. But the Hispanicity, in and of itself, it's talking about the race and the people that became the Latin Americans, because the Spaniards came to Mesoamerica in the beginning. The Spanish come to and they mix with the Indian and the native, whatever the best name for that is, but they mix and they become, Latin Americans. So very clear distinction, it gets established over the years as generations go by in creating the Latin American establishment. Very few waves of immigrants went to Latin America, contrary to North America, that people came from various places. We did have, immigrants coming from other places, but, the establishment of Hispanicity is the coming together of the Indian and the Latin American, which creates a Hispanic person, as defined here in the United States. Why is it important to celebrate it? I believe that it is important to celebrate everyone's heritage. I love going to the St. Patrick's Day parades. I love drinking green beer, and I enjoy it because that's the richness of this country that we can celebrate. And I believe one of the greatest assets of this nation is the diversity of people that came from everywhere and made it what it is today. The amazing thing about here is that you can come from anywhere on the planet and become an American. Contrary to if you go to Japan, you move to Japan, you'll probably not become Japanese, okay? You will not be viewed. You'll be viewed as a kind foreigner who came there. But in America, we have the opportunity to become what we are. So I believe that celebrating Hispanic heritage is important because it's part of the beautiful tapestry that has been made in the United States that created this wonderful nation that we call home.
Wonderful answer. So let me ask you specifically, so how has your Hispanic heritage helped or hindered your career?
Well, in my case, very particularly, it helped my career tremendously for the fact that for many years I was responsible for business throughout the Americas. We did a lot of business with the companies that I worked before. We did a lot of business for the mining industry in South America and Chile. We have done business for public utilities or private utilities, etc. So doing business in those geographies, it became extremely critical and important. And I feel that I was in a very good place, at the right place at the right time, at the moment when business transactions were being conducted between two peoples. And I'm talking about people that came from the U.S. We did business quite a bit with some Japanese, and we had Japanese people coming, and we had U.S. people coming. Japanese are very, they were, at least the people that we met in the 90s that we interacted with were very racially conscious. They expressly would say, no, I need to talk to an Anglo-Saxon about this. And I mentioned this in my book, because they would say, I trust word of Anglo-Saxon. They would say, they would articulate that in their meetings, But anyways, my identity as a Latin American and as a Hispanic was extremely critical because I was bridging a gap between two peoples. And having come to the United States at such young age, it made me part of the American. So some people ask me, are you more American than Latin American, etc.? Well, the country where I came from, El Salvador, gave me my beginnings, everything that, I came with, the basic infrastructure, but this country made me. I came to the US when I was 15. So, I am the mixture of two cultures. And it's probably one of the things that I treasure the most in my heritage and in my life, that I can go either way in understanding the culture. But I think it's very critical and important that within that asset that I hold as my Latin American and my Hispanic heritage, that I maintain some kind of a connectivity point with the people that I'm dealing with, meaning Anglos, as the Japanese would say, or Japanese people as they would say, et cetera, So everyone, we have our peculiar cultural assets that really are the makeup of what we are and what makes us beautiful. So I believe that we all need to feel proud of our heritage. In the beginning, when I first came to the United States, some people would call me Mexican, for instance. Some kids at school would call me Mexican. And I would just turn around and say, no. I said, I am from El Salvador, But not that it really mattered, but I thought I would be, very soon I discovered that giving lessons on geography was not that important, because at the end of the day, we're all Latin Americans, and I think we're all in the process of trying to get along and so forth. But I'll say one thing. I became first aware of my Latin American heritage when I came to the United States, because I came from a majority type situation where everyone was like me, okay? So before I was 15, I did not know. I really didn't think about it. There's people in Iowa living in some little town that had never even thought that they may be Anglo or white, or that they live there, that because they never have questioned it. Everyone is the same. So I had the same feeling. So when I came to the US, I felt that very quickly, and identifying with my heritage, became an important thing and a recognizable. I became aware of it, more profoundly.
Okay. Next question. So your book talks a great deal about corporate social responsibility. As an effective way to raise one's emotional salary. So you talk about things like emotional capital, corporate karma. Can you explain what these are?
Yeah. And thank you for mentioning the book. As you said, I went through some length in the book explaining some of the things that were really in this, being a very peculiar thing. I think we need to pursue our own individuality, and we need to thrive within that individuality. And I really believe that connecting with the community is an extremely important asset. We started programs, throughout the years that I worked in the corporate world. I took some risks on social adventures that we did with the community, which were quite exciting. These risks involved quite a few activities, which in the Ardurra lingo would be related to Ardurra Cares. Ardurra Cares has been created, and Ardurra Cares is a platform really that exists almost virtually, as we're talking about this. But at the end of the day, it is the individuals from this company, from Ardurra, that will make Ardurra Cares a reality. Institutions are like human beings. Institutions need to feel well. They need to feel good about themselves. They need to feel that they exercised, that they rested, that they had good sleep, that they had, good entertainment, that they were not only working. I believe someone who's working 200 hours a week is more effective than someone who works very focused, for 50 hours or 40 hours, whatever he might put in, So I believe that the sales is a consequence of actions that people in a group take. If you have some means and you are established and working, and you have the opportunity to reach out to help someone individually, I think you can create some invaluable connections within the community that are going to reflect good on Ardurra. imagine if you compound that with the corporate footprint that you leave behind when you join with your teammates to do a very simple activity within the community. I believe that the emotional salary is not necessarily paid to you by the company. It's you who create your emotional salary. You have to go out and get your emotional salary. And remember, reaching out to the community and to the weakest links within the community, it can be tough in the beginning. But I'm going to tell you something. We have reached out and connected with some critical weak links within our community that really gave us a lot of strength. We discovered very quickly that attaching ourselves to the weakest links of our society gave us a lot of strength and built our corporate karma in a way that we couldn't figure out what was happening. Things started to go too well. We started talking about love in our newsletters. We started talking about caring in our newsletters. Some people said, "What is this guy been smoking something?" They started to think, that, but slowly that thing began to turn. And I have to say that I worked for CDM before I came to Ardurra, and the program CDM Cares is a direct consequence of some of the social adventures that we carried in South Florida and in Puerto Rico that really transformed a very depressed institution. I came to an institution and became regional manager for this group, and I discovered that there was a lot of depression within the 500 employees that were under me. And I quickly discovered that they lacked connectivity with the community. They had come to do their jobs. I have to do my drawing. I have to get it out by Friday. I have to do this. I have to. Things that you have to do for work. The minute we started connecting some of these very talented engineers, planners, designers, drafters, accounting people who were administrative personnel and so forth, teams began to form. And all of a sudden, these teams were attacking different things within the community that needed our help. Women in Distress of Broward County. We created a program called Engineering Day for Girls, reaching out to the poorest high school within the community so that perhaps we could connect them into some, college opportunities or make them visualize a potential career, in the engineering field. This got amazing contact. We had in the Broward County mayor coming in to visit with some of these girls, the best and brightest 18 girls from a poor high school. I got in trouble with HR, and this is something that's going to be interesting to you, Kevin, because we issued these letters to these girls, and we said, if you come back here with a master's degree from an accredited university, and we told them what they needed to get, that we would offer them a job. And the HR said, you can't be offering jobs, but I tell you what.
I would let you slide on that. I would.
Yeah.
I'm there with you.
The amazing thing about this is that we see a girl coming back with that letter, saying, hey, I got my master's degree. This was really fantastic. So we started to see, the connection. We created a band, in the Spanish culture. There's these collegiate bands. They're called tuna. A tuna is called a collegiate band that sings. We created a band within the ranks of engineers, drafters, and administrative people from those who had never touched an instrument before and had never sang. And we ended up singing for the children at the cancer hospital. And we ended up, at the end of the day, our clients began to notice what we were doing. And some clients invited us to sing at their board meeting. They said, we want your group to come and sing for us the songs that you have been singing. We presented some of our videos of the things that we did with the children and so forth, But the thing you will discover is that the hardest thing is to take the first step. So my advice to anyone wanting to enhance the emotional salary, the corporate karma, if you would, of Ardurra, is by us connecting with the weakest links within the community. And remember, doing anything like that requires some special connectivity within an organization. The CEO cannot tell somebody, go do this or go do that. These are very driven by you. These initiatives are very driven by the individuals, because at the end of the day, it is the individuals who get the most bang for the buck. this is a personal benefit for some activity that you did that may have seemed self-serving activity on behalf of a company. I have to ask you to think about that carefully, because the beneficiaries are always us. The adventures that we discovered in social, connectivity with the community were just absolutely amazing. Predictable miracles began to happen. Some things that we thought, I wonder why we got that. I wonder why that job went to us. I wonder why this, and you had people even at the political level, the chief of police at Broward County. We were doing a program for the K-9 unit. We did a fundraiser to collect money for the K-9 unit to buy them vests. So we called it Vest a Top Dog a tournament. We did a tournament and so forth. But anyways, the secret to make these things successful is to reach out to the community and to not do it alone. You must always find your partner, okay? Your partners. Who's going to help you make this successful? We found great partners within our clients, okay? We told our clients, we want to reach out to this institution. We helped this institution in Jupiter, Florida. It's called El Sol Neighborhood Resource Center. It houses a bunch of immigrants from Latin America who are there looking for odd jobs and things to do. And we connected with them. And I tell you what, the rewards that we felt from interaction with this group, teaching them, many of these people don't even speak Spanish. They speak some Guatemalan dialect, so we ended up finding a lot of connectivity. And then a lot of little things began to happen that we said, hey, why is this happening? So kindness engenders well-being, and that engenders, a greater feeling about the company. The company is being recognized, by being a good citizen, a good corporate citizen. And guess what? The company begins to feel good about itself. The corporate karma begins to build. The connectivity is there. So find your partners is my number one advice, because one person trying to get anything done in an institution gets creamed, no matter who that person is. Two people can commiserate, and three people are the beginnings of a conspiracy, okay? So find your partners in whatever you're doing socially, and you will discover some amazing roads that you never thought, imagined, and that were so near to you.
Yep. And just to echo what you say there, I think it's so important to recognize what you hit on is that this is all run by the individual, and the programs that we put in place at a corporate level can support those activities and hopefully encourage and drive activities. But we can't organize that. We can't organize all of the events and all the activities, and we don't want to. There really is a grassroots nature of the individual and the individual offices getting together and doing just as you said, getting out in their communities and doing what they can.
Oh yeah, and you'll find that when you get a bunch of very educated, sophisticated planners who do, they plan everything, they do spreadsheets, they plan the activities, they have presentations, etc. And remember, it's not what the activity is, it's what the activity does, okay? It's got to be recorded, because there's something else that I used to tell the people that were working with me in this. There's nothing wrong with doing good by being good, purposely, okay? Nothing wrong with it. And nothing wrong with advertising that we had a program connecting with the community, because you know what? We want to encourage our clients, our friends, our competitors to join us in supporting these causes, because that's how we show leadership within the community. We can only, the servant is always the leader, okay? So being the servant, it's like becoming the donut guy at church in the morning. The servant is the leader because he's the one who's in control of making people taste that donut at 8 o'clock when they show up, and it feels really good. So taking that first step and the first initiative in going out and creating something, it takes one person, to start it. Great ideas come into the world as gentle as doves, right? So start it small and it just grows, it just grows on itself because it has a good spirit, so that is something that I found always to be very, very encouraging.
Very good. All right. Next question. So what do you recommend Ardurra can do to leverage young female Latina engineers and scientists?
I believe, Kevin, I think that's very important. But if I had to give a one-word answer, is listen. Listen to them. And I have to say to all the, be it Latin or be it any type, of group within the community of Ardurra, they must speak out. They must speak out. They must feel that they are being listened to. And I believe that, taking initiatives in little things. I never found a better way to create informal communications within the company than by doing some of these activities. When we started doing them, everyone had a chat together. We were working on some informal thing. And guess what? It only benefited the company because we had informal communication channels, which made us avoid mistakes and blunders that otherwise would have happened if we had not been so well communicated. We live in such a fast-paced world. We live in the text message generation. Hey, why haven't you responded to my text message 30 minutes ago? Remember, you used to have to send a memo in the mail. And you had to wait for the response. Right now, these things have really spoiled us, and changed our lives. So I believe that's very important. I would love to hear, at the corporate level, Ardurra Cares is going to start documenting the things that we do within the community, right? Because it's important that we let, big companies typically, the minute they begin to grow, begin to develop silos. And what I have found at Ardurra so far is that there aren't any silos, okay? Because the company is not that large yet, okay? But it's growing, and it's a very exciting company. And I feel that we need to work purposely, deliberately, to avoid the possibility of any silos building within Ardurra, okay? So I think that the message to young Latinas or to young Latinos from me would be, I found great success working with communities that really developed in my career. The benefit was to my career. It enabled me to grow very fast. It enabled me, to meet incredible people, throughout the planet. I met so many people traveling the world and doing these kinds of activities. And the associated benefits to our engineering business, was phenomenal, but it was an indirect consequence. It was part of an emotional capital that we had built for the company. And I believe it's our responsibility, all of us, to build the emotional capital that Ardurra can rightfully go to a community and say, we belong in this community. We're engaged with this community. We believe in this community. We help this community. And thus we get fed, right? We're locals here. It's very self-serving to just go say, hey, give me a job because I'm a good engineer. Hey, everybody's a good engineer. We have got to differentiate ourselves by being connected with the things that matter within the jurisdictions where we live. We discovered that was extremely beneficial, in the well-being and the health of the institution.
Wonderful. Last question, and then we're going to open it up to some Q&A. So Ardurra is very proud of our diverse organization. We're one of the few emerging AEC businesses with a Hispanic CEO, and 22% of our staff identify as Latin. I'm curious as to your thoughts, how we can use this to our benefit in attracting new talent. Was this a consideration in your decision to join Ardurra? And how is the experience and culture that you encountered here different than what you experienced at CDM in Black and Veatch?
Yeah, I have to say that it's very important for everyone to realize that Latinos are the fastest growing ethnicity, minority group, if you would. I don't like that word, but I use it because it's common lingo here. But I believe that it is important to realize that, in 2020, Latinos have reached the 60 million mark in the United States. So that means that 1 in every 5 Americans is a Latino. Okay, and the fastest growing number of millennials are Latinos. Okay, so I believe that it is important, that we capture the imagination of these Latino engineers and many other engineers. But I think that making us diverse, just like our communities are. If you look at South Florida where we work, and you look at the makeup of our clients, it's a very diverse group of people. And I think that we must reflect, what our clients' perception is, but more importantly, what our communities are. So I encourage Latino engineers to reach out. Number one, I would say, if I tell this advice to my son or my daughter, I would tell them, be yourself. Be yourself, number one. Number two, assimilate into the mainstream American culture, okay? To me, that was being a Hispanic coming to an Anglophile country. I came here at 15. I didn't know the language, I didn't, but I made it I came early enough. I was only 15 when I came, and I did not know a word of English, and I had the distinct advantage of coming at 15, and that helped a lot. But one of the things that I discovered throughout my career was that integrating into the mainstream United States of America and feeling American is a great thing, and it can never be done at the expense of your heritage. Your heritage is part of you. No one is going to remove it. So some people ask me, are you more Latin American than U.S. American? And I said, well, which eye do I like the better? My left eye or my right eye? I can't tell you. It's part of who I am. It's part of my makeup. So I would encourage everyone to reach out and to remember that there's a lot of people. If you choose to work with the Latino segment, it could be, other type of minority or people that need a little bit of encouragement to get ahead. So I encourage young Latinos to reach out, to belong to engineering societies, to participate within the community. But, it's very easy to get lost within the community of engineers in like an ASCE or those groups are so large, and it's very difficult. So that's where Ardurra Cares comes in. And I think it gives you a forum to distinguish yourself, within the company, within the community, because assuming those leadership roles are a very good indication of the good things that are going to happen to you when the company considers you for some important activity. They'll say, oh, this person was a good leader, taking us to do this activity here or this activity there. The person was thorough. The person did the background checking. The person followed through. Follow through is probably the most important aspect of Ardurra Cares. Following through on your promises. There has got to be promise makers, but promise keepers have got to be there to make it a reality. So that's what I would say. I would encourage, and I have always been, I have never been too friendly of these special treatment. You need to be given a special treatment because you're such and such. I don't believe that helps at the end of the day. I believe in some instances it does. Okay, it's like the Head Start program. If you have a child that doesn't speak any English, giving him a little advantage at a local school so that he can keep. A child in 3 months is speaking English, maybe less. Okay, children, the smaller that they are, the quicker they assimilate. So I believe that my word of advice to Latinos and to anybody, be proud of your heritage and tell people about it. Tell people about it. Celebrate it. Like we're celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month. Celebrate it. Feel good about it. Make a point to reach out within the community to some activity because something is happening. Something is happening in the community that will matter. So I would say that stay connected. Don't go into a personal silo. Reach out to your companions. Make them feel part of the celebration of your heritage. There's so many little things that you can do. I remember at Black and Beach about maybe 25 years ago, I created a program where we started dressing with guayaberas. Latin people like to wear guayaberas, sometimes with the pocket here in the front, because this is where the people used to put their salaries in the past. They would pay with cash, and then you go gambling. but anyways, that's historical. But we created this Guayabera Friday. Even the CEO ended up wearing a Guayabera one Friday, okay? And it became such a fad, and it became such a thing. But it just gave us something to talk about, something to make us special, okay? So I believe we Latinos add some salsa, to the whole thing. And who doesn't like to dip a little chip into some salsa, right? It's good stuff, right? So I would say continue bringing the salsa to work, everyone. That's extremely important.
Very good. Yeah. And we're going to break into some questions here. I see a couple coming through on the chat now. But yeah, just to comment on what you say and how it rings to me, we're a young organization, obviously, and we're rolling out a lot of these programs, which are really awesome. And one of the other programs that came out of the Employee Council that we've launched recently is the Young Professionals Group. And certainly for young engineers of all backgrounds, we encourage you to get involved. But when we did it, we actually designed it to where it is potentially the first of what can be multiple affinity groups. So there are always opportunities to where as we grow, if there's a demand, then I expect at some point that we will see maybe a Latin engineering group or professionals group within the group, and there's so much that we can do that's exciting. But it's incumbent on the individuals and our staff really taking a lead and saying, hey, you know what, this is a need that we have, and this is where I think I can have an impact.
I had an employee, and I'll close with this. I had an employee who was kind of sick of his job because he's been doing it for so long. And I had a wife come to me for a Christmas dinner to thank me, and she said, Jim has never felt so good in his entire career. He's got a renewed enthusiasm about things. And, he was simply leading some activities with the community on behalf of our group. And I tell you what, it can elevate, your feeling, your well-being tremendously if you do it. And you'll discover some roads, that you never imagined existed, as I said before. That's the exciting part.
Yep.
We'll take some questions.
All right. So let's see. So I got a couple here from Nicole Lynn in Civil Group in Tampa. So she asks, what are some indicators of silos occurring in the organization, and how can we prevent it?
Yeah, silos are typically created unintentionally. They just happen. Not any different than when you have a gathering and the gathering begins to have too many people in one house. You start seeing groups that get separated, right? Like with any activity, some people find affinity to one topic that they're talking about and whatnot. But within organizations like this, silos typically begin to grow within people that have got similar responsibilities or business unit interests that are, oh no, I'm with the structural group, I'm with the technical group, I'm not with the administrative group, and this and that. So I think silos can be broken by having informal activities, just like the ones we've been talking about, and the ones that the Ardurra Cares is trying to promote. I think Ardurra Cares it's a wonderful medicine for silo prevention. Okay, I think silo prevention is silos are nothing more than lack of communication. Okay. And not for a purpose of being bad, just simply because, an electrical engineer is talking to another electrical engineer and they have affinity and the things that they have got going on, but breaking the barrier in taking the conversation to topics that are really unrelated to your craft, meaning community, and it doesn't even have to start with the community. Some of these activities can begin at home. Some of this Ardurra Care homework can be done internally within the office, But pick a charity, any office. I encourage any office of Ardurra to pick a charity, simple one that needs a lot of help, not, the Habitat for Humanity that, a million corporations are trying to support, but create your own vehicle. Okay, create your own vehicle. I'm not discouraging you to participate in Habitat for Humanity or the Run for Cancer or any of those. They're phenomenal. But if you want to really make a difference on something that's created by you and that will, create some informal communication to avoid these silos within an organization, create your own activity, and I think it will reward in breaking that barrier to the creation of the silo. I hope that.
Yep. Anybody brave enough to unmute their mic and ask a question?
Oh, that's a great idea. Come on, I know there has got to be questions.
Come on.
Hi, LEU. Can you hear me? This is Earl.
I hear you. If you could get a
Earl.
little closer to the mic, that would be great.
Yeah. Hey. I'm wearing this headset. It's so difficult sometimes. Can you hear me better?
Yeah. I hear you. Okay.
Great. Thank you so much. Well, both Kevin and you for putting this on, and for LEU, for you providing a glimmer and insight into your wonderful and rich historical and cultural persona. I get such I'm inspired in just listening to you. It's wonderful. Just that a lot of engineers, a lot of civil engineers, and which I am, they're not really brought, in engineering format, they're not really about all that, that true personality that comes through and that robustness. And I'll tell you, I just in listening and watching you, I'm really inspired. But I will, from this meeting, I'm certainly going to, well, number one, I want to, read your book. It sounds great. And just the, your wonderful heritage and everything else. I'm first generation myself. Both my parents are from Europe, and then I was born in Canada and then came here to the U.S. I'm a naturalized U.S. citizen. So, the obstacles that I may have had to have come across are maybe a little different. I don't have skin of color, if you will. So nobody knows the difference, or anything. But I certainly can appreciate so many challenges and so many people. But like you've said, the United States there's the fabric of your heritage and of your culture. It's one eye is no different than the other eye. It was fantastic, but by the same time, as you said, it's such United States and America is such a wonderful and beautiful place where people are so welcoming, and we're only better every day. In this society, in our country, because of what everybody brings to the table. I mean, it's so beautiful. We're so lucky to be here, and there are lots of other countries that are wonderful too. Don't get me wrong. But, so with that said, it's more of just a statement that I'm happy to have been on this call and listening to you. I'm inspired. I want to be organically involved in things. And we have this mentoring program that has it looks like is going to get started. I have a lot to provide. I'm 55. I've been an engineer for 25 in the industry for 25 plus years. So I think that there's a lot of benefit in that. And like you're saying, I'm sure it will not only, most importantly, will enrich me because of what I'm going to be providing to others. And so I'm looking very forward to that. Thank you.
Yep, I appreciate your comment, and I tell you, you can take my word for that. It'll benefit you more than anybody else. It will be a trip well worth taking. And thank you for your comment. Do you have any others?
Thank you.
I have let's see, Joseph Moore, real quick, while we're waiting on somebody else to step up to the mic.
Okay.
Asked, what is the article of clothing you were describing? And it is a guayabera, which is a traditional Latin, usually a short sleeve shirt. So if you've never seen one, by all means, take a look. I've got a few in my closet.
And if you have an evening event, it's a long sleeve. It can serve as a formal attire to a tropical wedding, for instance. You wear a guayabera as a long sleeve shirt that has embroidery typically has embroidery on the sides. It's buttoned down and it has a open collar and so forth. But it's very typical. It's a very typical tropical outfit. Used throughout the tropical countries in the world.
All right. Anybody else brave enough to?
Hi, it's Patricia.
Hey, Patricia.
Hey, it's not really a question. It's more, I just want to thank yourself, Kevin, and Ardurra and Eliu for taking the time out today. I find it really refreshing, and that we're embracing diversity. I think that as a recruiter, that's Eliu, I'm one of the recruiters, and I work out of Corpus Christi, Texas. I myself am first generation Mexican. My father migrated here from Mexico, from Guanajuato. So it's a personal topic for me, and I really enjoy it. I have recently, which was interesting to me when the meeting invite was sent out, I have recently been doing a lot of research and history on Latino Americans. There's a really great documentary, 6 hour long, on PBS. So maybe if you guys want to check that out, it really goes into the deep history of Latino Americans. So anyhow, but I think
I have watched it. It is a wonderful.
Isn't it great?
Great.
Yes,
spectacular.
It is. So I just, from a recruiting side, I really appreciate us showcasing Mr. Bettis's work and his book, which I will be reading. I did look it up and I have it on my wish list. So from a recruiting standpoint, I do come across individuals there's one individual who, did have we had a talk, and he did talk about how he was also a first generation immigrant. He's from Argentina. He's been working as a civil engineer in California. I was trying to, bring him over to Ardurra, but he wants to stay in California for water, wastewater. So anyhow, but he did talk about that and how he's really actively involved in helping close that gap as far as the education goes, for those who, are a little underrepresented, even though we make up a large number of the population in the United States. So again, thank you for what you're doing. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you, Patricia. Let's connect offline. I enjoyed your comment.
Sure, no problem.
Nacho, I see you going off. Are you jumping in? One of my favorite guys.
Yes. Good morning, Eliu. Thank you for taking the time today to tell us a little bit about you. Congratulations on your career, and it's been a long way. And I'm glad that you are where you're at now, and that you're with us at Ardurra, celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month. As Patricia said, I'm from Laredo, Texas. If some of you don't know, we're at the border. So the Hispanic, it's sort of intertwined. It's the best of both worlds. You're an American, but you also never lose your or in my case, Mexican identity, Hispanic identity. So I just want to echo the sentiment that Earl and Patricia, as first generation professional and college graduate, I appreciate what the Employee Council, HR, and yourself are doing today. It's really good, and it's exciting that we're embracing diversity. As I go through here, it's not only Hispanics on this call. It's a great cross section of this beautiful country. It's a melting pot, right? So it's definitely beautiful and exciting to be part of something like this. I will provide a clarification. As a Hispanic, yeah, you're always an American first. But when it comes to soccer, you have to support Mexico first. It's Mexico first, and then the U.S.
Yeah. Thank you, Nacho. Thank you for your comment. I am a big soccer fan, and my life has been lived around the World Cup. I can tell you what I was doing in every World Cup, where and when. And I was somewhat of an ignorant on American football and baseball, and I had to learn those when I came here. But soccer was part of my blood.
and if it's the fact that we're using soccer is we're American now, right? It's football.
Oh yeah.
Putting it out there.
Absolutely, Nacho. Thank you for your comment. Anybody else?
Yes, I have. Go ahead.
No, go, Liz. Go ahead.
Ernesto, please go ahead. I had 2 questions on chat, but we'll get to them if we can. But I'd rather have you be able to weigh in.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it to Liz. She went in before. Go ahead, Liz. You're on mute.
Somebody's on mute.
Okay, she's on mute, Liz.
Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Now we can.
Okay. My question is, first, thank you so much for doing this. My question is related to emotional capital. What are some recommendations that you may have to build trust in diverse groups? And what are some barriers that you experience building trust as a member of the Latino community?
Thank you for that. Liz, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Building trust is critical, okay? Building trust is critical. And that's why I said, don't think that your first activity is going to be sailing a sailboat across the Atlantic or the Pacific, okay? Start with something small and build on it. Develop trust, okay? You don't learn how to sail by racing that boat from San Diego all the way to Hawaii, okay? You start in a local pond very near your home where if you fail, you're not liable to drown, okay? You're going to start with something small, and you're going to promote and advertise the things that you're doing. You're going to celebrate your team, and you're going to be building that trust, okay? This is not something that's going to happen or is going to be given to you. Trust is something that trust is something that you have to develop one brick at a time. It's like building a wall, okay? You never thought that this little brick like this you could put on your desk if you wanted to. If you start putting them one on top of the other with a little cement, all of a sudden you've got a wall, right? So make sure that you have got that first initial journey and you take it with your group, somebody that, reach out to people, within your work group and tell them, hey guys, I have this idea. I believe we could do this little something, okay? It's only gonna take us an hour after work, or we're gonna bring our lunch and we'll pack sandwiches and we're gonna do an activity over the lunch hour, okay? But over the lunch hour, you have the potential to change the world over the lunch hour. So start with it, start small, advertise, communicate your intentions, and you'll discover that trust is starting to build, okay, within your group, and you'll soon discover that other people are following your lead, and taking initiative. But that's what we want, right? We want this to be a contagion, within the organization, so that we all become we all make Ardurra a better institution every day, okay? And the one who gets the reward is the individual on that emotional salary. And that emotional salary begins to build, and you create that emotional capital that you can bank on your bigger adventures. So that day when you sail across the Pacific, you're going to have some karma and emotional capital already built, and you're going to be able to move mountains. Okay, so that would be my advice.
All right.
Thank you so much.
With that, I would like to close out with Ernesto. I know we have a couple questions on chat that we're not going to get to, and I would encourage you, I'm sure Eliu has no problem, if you would shoot him an email or give him a call with some questions. They're great questions, but Ernesto, I'd like you to jump in there if you're
Yeah, well, thank you, Eliu and Kevin, for doing this. Eliu, when you first brought it forward, we thought it was a great idea. I think this is really something important that as a company we're doing to kind of learn about our different backgrounds. But I have a question for you, Eliu. You know, you hear often that strong companies are companies that are built with different backgrounds, different experiences. They're stronger. I've also heard the argument that says, no, when you're all aligned the same, you're all the same, you're going to be a stronger team. I disagree with that. I think different backgrounds, different experiences make companies stronger. In your view, Eliu, why, I think you agree with that, why would you say that is true? What are the reasons?
I would say, Ernesto, and thank you for that. I would say that, you know, if you think of harmony, if you equate harmony to a string quartet, for instance, you see how different they are, right? You know, harmony presumes diversity, okay? Harmony is enriched with diversity because people with different backgrounds, ideas, and different frames of minds and DNAs come together to produce an outcome that will be palatable to the entire community, okay? So I believe that, you know, that diversity, you know, just like the music produced by the string quartet, you know, will surprise you. You know, the outcome will surprise you. Many times, and this is something I experienced in my career, I observed some groups trying to accomplish some things in a very large organization, and I don't need to. This is no secret. But when I was at Black and Veatch about 25 years ago, I'm sure that has changed dramatically now. But every manager of every major division of the company was an Iowa State grad from the same fraternity as the person who was running the water group, which is the one that I know mostly about, you know. But I tell you what, the minute they sprinkled that group with a little diversity, they brought an Indian fellow who brought different ideas, different ways of looking at things. And the first thing that this Indian fellow who came in a position of authority, the first question that he asked everyone, where did you go to school? And, you know, and what did you study? And he began to trace everything down to the same fraternity, you know, at the school. And he began to change that. The results were amazing. The results were remarkable, you know, on how diversity gave a whole different feeling, you know, to the things that the group was trying to accomplish. So I believe that's the secret of it. I believe, you know, that the harmony that we're seeking to attain comes from that diversity. And I encourage you to continue to think that way. Thank you for that, Ernesto.
Thank you.
All right. Well, that puts us at 1 o'clock on the dot. So I think perfect way to close out. And again, so I want to thank Eliu for taking part. And I think, you know, this is probably going to be the first of a new format that we're going to try to pull forward like this for other diversity groups and initiatives. And I think it's a one heck of a way to kick it off. So really exciting.
I think, Kevin, I thank you too for allowing me to do this. And, you know, COVID-19 has given us many bad things, but I think one of the good things is that it enables for meetings like this to happen, you know, a lot quicker. You know, I believe that I have been able to connect and meet so many people over the video camera over this period. I'm hoping for this thing to end. I'm a social animal. I kind of go crazy on my own, you know, but I tell you, it has been wonderful. And thank you everyone for tuning in. Again, I don't want to, you know, be a blunt advertiser here, but, you know, reach out, buy my book. It's Unclipped Wings. It's on Amazon. I encourage you to buy it and ask me questions which you might have, and I believe you will read some stories that will resonate within the things that you're doing in your career, because I try to portray that within the book. So with that, I thank everyone very much, and I appreciate you, Kevin, and I appreciate Ardurra for allowing me to do this conversation with everyone. And have a great afternoon.